morning, everyone. I'm here today presenting on northern snakehead threat to New York's water bodies. I just want to point out my co-authors, Scott Wells, DC, and Heidi Hines from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So some of the work I'll speak about today could not have been done without the regional office that Scott's in and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service work as well. So as we know, there are some major threats to global biodiversity, and invasive species are among some of those. And this is in no particular order, but these are all major threats to biodiversity across the globe. So invasive species can interact with native species in a number of ways, and some of those can be direct, such as predation and competition, and others are indirect. Competition can be indirect, habitat alterations, and alteration of those community dynamics as well. So the northern snakehead is a species many of us are familiar with. It's native to Asia, and within the United States, it's been introduced in a number of different states. In some of those areas, it's become fully established, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But many of the vectors for the spread of northern snakehead are through aquarium dumps, cultural releases, sport fish releases, as well as through successful reproduction within these systems and natural dispersal from them. The life history traits for northern snakehead allow them to mature fairly early at 2 years or approximately 12 inches, so that might be resource dependent and temperature dependent as far as how quickly they grow. They are fairly fecund, not as fecund as some of the carp that we just heard about, but they can produce up to 115,000 eggs per year and can spawn throughout the year, so that's up to 5 times. They also show parental care, so that would allow for juvenile survivorship to be higher than without. And in the wild, they have been known to live for about 8 years. The figure here on your right, figure on the right is showing the growth curves from Potomac River down in Maryland and Virginia. This area is kind of the epicenter of northern snakehead in the United States, and those populations have grown quite large at this point. And you can see that kind of rapid growth, and by age 3 or 4, they've reached about their maximum sizes. They have a habitat preference for fresh water, but they can survive within brackish water and estuarine systems. They prefer stagnant, shallow water with muddy substrates and aquatic vegetation, so they enjoy those kind of marshy habitats on the edges of the Potomac or river basins. They have a seasonal migration within these kind of littoral zones and wetland habitats and the main body of the rivers. So in the Potomac and in Virginia, within the winter season, they migrate into the deeper water of the channel, and within the warmer season, the growing season, they'll be within the shallow vegetated areas. And for the work I'll talk about with our surveys this summer, that came into play with where we decided to survey for these northern snakehead. As fry, they're consuming zooplankton and small insects or crustaceans, and as they grow, they shift to be piscivores. And as full-grown adults, they can consume other fish up to a third of their body length. So they can be pretty voracious predators. So here within the United States, you can see you can see that their populations are kind of scattered about, some in Georgia, the Carolinas. There's, we believe, an eradicated population in Arkansas that, well, attempted eradication, but failed attempts. So there's snakehead here. There's some minor introduction, I think a failed invasion, introduction in California. And then here in the Potomac and Delaware system, the populations have really continued to grow. And that's what we see here on the right. That's within the Northeast. And this is the Susquehanna and Delaware River basins. So here, the Potomac, the Chesapeake Bay, and as you can see, they've started to move north up the Susquehanna into southern Pennsylvania. And then scattered locations across Delaware and Maryland, and then here within the Delaware estuary, and then moving up the Delaware Basin. So that's kind of current status. This region of the United States, and Virginia and Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay, they're not doing anything about it. It's essentially has become a sport fishery in that region. Pennsylvania, it hasn't really developed into a fishery, but they are there and not being controlled. Within New York State, well, I'll talk about that on the next slide. So here in New York, we have a history of snakehead being detected and within a few different regions. So we have a population here in Queens, so that's on Long Island in New York City. They've been present there since at least 2005. The population is monitored. It doesn't appear to be spreading. And regional DC monitors that annually to look for their presence and potential spread. In Orange County, which is this point here, so that's near the New Jersey border, there was an introduction within the Ridgebury Lake area in 2008 and 2009. That introduction was treated with rotenone, and we believe to have been a successful eradication. Within 2008, after the first treatment, there were 227 carcasses found. Follow-up surveys in 2009 found a few additional snakehead and treated those as well, and removed another 28 carcasses. In all the years since, through repeated surveys, there's been no snakehead detected in this system downstream or upstream of that. So we believe that to be a successful eradication. Then we have these two other unconfirmed sightings of snakehead, one in the Oswego River, so kind of north central New York, and in 2013, eDNA surveys from that area were all negative, and no other fish has been captured in that area, so no fish in hand. And then in this past year, we have a report from Hudson River. And the Hudson River report allowed us to exercise our skills in rapid response and early detection. So essentially this, on the left here, we have the timeline. Initially, an angler allegedly caught a snakehead, and you can see the photo that they took here in June of 2019. About 2 months later, at the end of August, an environmental conservation officer was talking to this fisherman at a launch, and was scrolling. The guy, was scrolling through photos on his phone, and ECO saw this picture of a snakehead on there, and started the conversation. Where did this photo come from? And the guy reported, "Oh, I caught this 2 months ago. I caught it. I took a photo. I ate it. Disposed of the body." There's no geographic information associated with the photo, so we weren't able to georeference that particular photo from there. But it seemed like a fairly credible report of snakehead within that Hudson region. So that report came to the fisheries office and our invasive species staff within the DC, and we mobilized the conversation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, regional DC office, and central office as well. And that report came to us at the end of August, and by the middle of September, we were out there performing field surveys. Scott and his team had been out there in those weeks as well. So fairly rapid response to this detection once it was reported. On the right here, you can kind of see this is what we would like to occur if anyone is to capture a snakehead. So kill it immediately. You know, that may have been met here. Take pictures was done, but also reporting it and taking GPS locations and along those lines, and then reporting that to your regional staff. So somewhere along the line, this system fell apart with this particular angler, but it's out there. And this information is available on our Northern Snakehead fact sheet. These are available for distribution statewide as part of the education outreach program that we are working on within the Bureau of Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health. So here's some details on our eDNA surveys from this. You can see here in this map, this is Hudson, New York is where this report allegedly came from. The angler, captured this fish reportedly around here, and so this is a kind of a wetland complex back in here. These are all kind of wetland areas that are preferred snakehead habitat. So we worked to sample within the marsh right here where the snakehead had been reported from, and then also some of the neighboring work. So with Fish and Wildlife Service, we collaborated with them to collect 30 eDNA samples, 10 from 3 different wetland complexes. One right here at the site of capture, one right across the river here, and then one upstream within this wetland complex here near Stockport, New York. Each one of those sites had 10 samples. They were in prime snakehead habitat. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, so we collected water samples, brought them back, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, they have their mobile eDNA lab that they brought out to the site, and they filtered the samples right then within a handful of hours of collection. So eDNA should not have degraded within that time. It's kept on ice throughout that period. And the samples were then brought to the Northeast Fisheries Center in Lamar, Pennsylvania, where Fish and Wildlife Service performed the eDNA assays and found no positive hits for snakehead within this area. So that's our eDNA collection and work, and you can see some of the areas we were in were not accessible by boat, so we had to walk up the stream, and others the rest were typically accessible by boat. So we also performed traditional electrofishing surveys, and using 2 different gear types, or 3 different gear types really. We had kind of a dedicated electrofishing boat, which you can see kind of here, Scott at the helm, and some other folks fishing. And then backpack electroshocking in the areas that were not accessible by boat, even at any tidal cycle wasn't accessible. You had to really get under a bridge to get through there, and it was a bit of a challenge. And then another back area which was accessible, but only by a smaller modified John boat that the Fish and Wildlife Service has for electrofishing these types of habitats. That was quite an interesting site. I had to access it on the falling tide to get under the bridge, fish on the falling tide, and get back out on the rising tide. So some struggling there, and you can see All these surveys were performed within 3 dates. August 29th, that's an initial survey that Scott had done soon after the report came in, and then the September 18th and 19th with along with Fish and Wildlife Service. So in total, we did 12 sites, about 16 runs, each about 10 minutes long, with a total of just shy of 4 hours of fishing time. The results from this, we captured 2,195 fish. Well, we recorded that many fish, captured and handled 1,732 fish, 32 species, 1 hybrid, which was bluegill and pumpkin seed. We caught invasive fish up here, rudd, goldfish, and carp. The most unique fish was an Atlantic needlefish, which I believe we have a photo of there. This work was done, as you can see here, both in day and night. These photos, I think, are all from night fishing, which is a lot more productive than the day fishing. The most common species were white perch, 43% of all fish captured. American yellow, second most, 23%, and alewife and banded killifish were each about 10%. And within that, we did not capture any northern snakehead, or we didn't observe any snakehead in the water as well. So, as a continued threat to New York State, we have snakehead here within the Potomac and the Chesapeake, and this is the Susquehanna River here. And currently, they're here in southern Pennsylvania. There's a few barriers as you move up the Susquehanna to prevent them, but what they have seen in Maryland and I believe in Pennsylvania at this point is that anglers are moving them up to the top of the dam. So that is a threat for them to continue moving up that system into the headwaters of the Susquehanna. The Delaware is unobstructed, no major barriers. Dams, there's some wing dams and things like that, and maybe some habitat barriers, but no major dams to prevent snakehead from continuing their movement. This is kind of the northernmost section within the Delaware where they are. There's the illegal activities and the transport of snakehead. For any of those other numbers that